These are 10 episodes where Lois Griffin was the worst wife, starting with the time Lois hypnotized Peter to perform better in bed, which had disastrous consequences. Lois and Peter spend a nice evening at a his and hers restaurant where they enjoy each other's company and talk openly about their plans for later. The next day, Lois admits to her friends that she wishes Peter would do certain things, but after being together for so long, she doesn't think it's ever going to happen. Bonnie suggests they visit a therapist to figure things out. The therapist suggests hypnosis with a trigger phrase, which is essentially training the brain to behave a certain way every time it hears it. Peter agrees, but as the therapist is about to give him his trigger word, he's interrupted by his phone. Later that night, Lois tries the trigger word, but nothing happens. Peter hears the jingle from his phone on the TV, and it looks like that specific jingle is now his trigger phrase. Peter gets right down to business, and while Lois seems to have had an amazing night, Peter doesn't remember a thing. Lois takes advantage of this, using the jingle to control Peter without his consent. Lois is very happy with this setup, even allowing Peter to go play golf while she takes care of his chores. Later that night, Peter and Lois go to the Schmidt's house for dinner. Lois asks Peter to make a plate for her sick mother, but he doesn't return. Lois begins to panic when she hears the magic words coming from the television upstairs. Lois races up the stairs to stop the inevitable, but she's too late. The deed is done, and it looks like everyone is going to be needing hypnotherapy after this. Peter and Lois drive home in silence. When some music comes on the radio, Peter hears the jingle and his hypnosis kicks in again, leading to another unsettling moment for Lois. Lois comes out of her shell. Brian notices that Lois's birthday is coming up, but she admits that she'd rather let this one pass, as being reminded about her age just makes her sad. Despite this, Brian suggests they throw her a party to cheer her up. Lois returns home to find all her friends and family there for the surprise party, which seems to cheer her up until Peter ruins it with a terrible poem about how old she's getting. Embarrassed, Lois runs, crying, into the other room. Peter can't find Lois the next morning, but she soon rolls up in a Jeep, dressed like a teenager and talking in modern slang. Brian suggests Lois is having a midlife crisis, which seems obvious. Lois continues her wild phase by getting a lower back tattoo, which Peter actually seems to like. He is a fan of the new Lois, as she catches him off guard with a sexy little basement surprise. Their youthful escapades continue as the duo takes a night out on the town, doing drugs, dancing in clubs, and tagging walls with graffiti. Lois is having the time of her life, but Peter is having a hard time keeping up. Peter is finally starting to lose momentum at the next party, but Lois wants to have fun with her new young friends. Peter can't keep up with Lois anymore, and Brian tells him this is all his doing since he made her feel bad about her age. They see on the news that Justin Bieber is going to be performing in Quahog, and witnessing Lois go crazy for the teen star, Peter decides he needs to step in before they lose Lois to the young life. After the concert, Lois manages to make her way backstage to meet Justin, but Peter busts down the door just in time, preventing Lois from doing something that would land her in jail. Peter tells Lois she needs to start acting her age, but Lois says she's just giving him everything he wants. Peter admits he loves Lois just the way she is and doesn't want to be married to a kid anymore. Breaking out is hard to do. While shopping at the grocery store, Lois comes up a little short on money and has to put back a ham she was going to buy. She notices her purse is just the right size for the ham and decides to steal it. Her sticky fingers continue to cause problems as she starts to steal more and more from various stores. Lois admits it's hard to shake off the thrill of stealing, but Brian urges her to stop before things get too out of hand. Before she can return everything she took, she's caught by Joe, who engages in a dangerous chase with her. Lois is apprehended, and in court, she apologizes for all the stealing she's done. Just as the judge is about to go easy on her, she steals his gavel, proving she has a serious problem. The judge gives her 3 years in state prison. With Lois gone, the Griffin house falls apart, and the family is in complete disarray. The family goes to visit Lois in jail, where Peter has a brilliant idea on how to get her out. They manage to escape, but with the cops on their trail, they decide to hop in a van and start a new life. As accessories to Lois's escape, the family decides to start a new life and blend into wherever they end up, which turns out to be a Chinatown. renting a crappy little apartment above a Chinese takeout place. The Griffins all try to get by with odd jobs. Joe witnesses Peter on television and locates them. The Griffins flee yet again, but Joe brings a helicopter into the mix, forcing them to take to the sewer. Lois begins to have second thoughts about running and opts to turn herself in so the family can go free. Joe finally arrives and tries to apprehend Lois, but he nearly falls to his death. Lois finds the strength to pull him up, saving his life. After that act of heroism, Joe lets Lois return home, and she is released from her sentence. It takes a village idiot and I married one. While spending a relaxing weekend at Quagmire's cabin in the woods, the family goes for a swim in the lake, only to find that the water makes their hair fall out. They follow the source and notice a lot of waste being dumped into the lake by an oil refinery. Lois goes to Mayor Adam West to raise concerns about this, but he reveals that he allows the dumping in exchange for free oil. Outraged by this corruption, Lois plans to run against Mayor West in the next election. As the mayoral race heats up, Lois gets the family in on her campaign. With the race getting tighter, Peter tries to get the guys in on the campaign trail. Joe's approach is to threaten to ignore a victim's evidence if she doesn't vote for Lois, while Quagmire's approach is to secure the town's female votes. When it comes time for the two candidates to meet and debate, Lois doesn't initially connect with voters who don't want to hear long-winded policy mumbo-jumbo. Mayor West, on the other hand, seems to win hearts and minds with hollow, non-answers that just make people think he's chill. Brian suggests giving short, simple answers to appeal to the brain-dead voters, and it works. Lois wins the election and becomes the mayor of Quahog. Her first act as mayor is to clean up the disgusting lake, but to do so, she proposes a tax increase, which the voters hate. Fearing she'll lose her community, she returns to what got her elected in the first place, hot-button buzzwords. By convincing the town that terrorists are hiding in the lake, she manages to get them to literally throw money at her feet. With the lake cleaned up, Lois decides to help herself to a little treat by dipping into the tax surplus to buy a new purse, despite Brian's warnings. Lois continues to help herself to some taxpayer spending when she's approached by Bob Grossbeard, the president of Quahog Oil, offering to buy her a coat in exchange for allowing his company to dump in the lake again. Lois agrees, but during the opening of the new pipe, she sees the immediate damage the dumping does and decides to shut the pipe off. Lois forfeits her title as mayor, refusing to be a part of corruption any longer, and Adam West quickly steps in, ready to take his job back. The first Noel. With Christmas right around the corner, Lois is hard at work getting the house ready for the season, though she seems like the only one working. She asks her family to help decorate and get her an actual, meaningful gift. After shopping all day, the family comes home empty-handed. Peter says he has everything under control, leaving and returning later that night with a nice Christmas tree, though he's streaming it from the car. Fed up with her family's incompetence, Lois decides to take up her cousin's offer and go on vacation, leaving the rest of the family to fend for themselves. But as it turns out, Lois hasn't actually left the country, but has instead gotten a motel room with a conveniently perfect view of the house, expecting a phone call begging her to come back and save Christmas. Back at home, Peter is stressing out about not having Lois here to decorate the house. In his rage, he actually does a pretty good job of making the house look beautiful. The family continues with holiday festivities, even setting a Christmas movie on fire and having a dinner of nicely roasted Meg. Meanwhile, Lois continues to watch the family have a great time from afar, even seeing them get covered by the local news. Struck with jealousy, Lois is ready to get scary and ruin Christmas. She sneaks into the house in the middle of the night, ready to embrace her inner Grinch and steal everything from the decorations to the presents to the tree. The next morning, the Griffin family excitedly awakens to find their house sucked dry of Christmas spirit. Not long after, Lois returns from Mexico to hear the bad news from the family that she caused. Lois asks if they all feel bad about what happened, but they reveal that they're happy because her gift was the only one not stolen. With it comes a note explaining how much they love and appreciate her. The gift itself is a terrible-looking clay bowl, but it was made by the entire family in a pottery class. Loving her gift and her family, Lois begins to feel her heart swell, and her heart grew 3 sizes that day. Wasted talent. Lois is looking for a student talented enough to win the Quahog piano competition, where she always comes in second place behind Alexis Radcliffe. Meanwhile, Peter is trying to drink as much beer as he can to find one of 4 tickets that will win him a tour of the beer factory and free beer for life. Hundreds of beers later, he still has no winning ticket. By a stroke of luck, Peter finds the last remaining ticket and runs home as fast as he can, but he spoils the moment by tripping. On the tour, Peter experiences the Willy Wonka-like wonders of the Pawtucket Brewery. Peter and Brian come across an experimental beer that makes you float when you drink it, and they start floating up towards a huge industrial fan. Luckily, Peter's fear farts hold the key to escaping. After filling the room with enough gas to start a car, they're promptly kicked out. Sad over losing out on free beer, Peter copes by getting very drunk. This ends up being a blessing for Lois because it turns out that Peter is quite the pianist when he's had a few drinks. He plays all night, but when the sun comes up, his skills have suddenly vanished along with his buzz. When Brian gives him a beer, he flies right back into being a music star. Peter continues to prepare for the piano competition, drinking more and more beer at the hand of Lois. Lois's drive to succeed may just overpower her concerns about his health. During the night of the recital, Peter and Lois are informed that they're in a dry county and won't be able to buy alcohol from anywhere. Lois thinks this is a sign to stop, but she really wants to beat Alexis. Out of options, they decide to crash a nearby high school party to get some beer. The festivities get busted by the feds, but a drunk Peter is too clever for them. Back at the recital, Peter is about to go on, so Lois makes sure that he's as buzzed as he can be. Peter manages to perform beautifully and takes home the trophy, but Lois still feels guilty over supporting Peter's alcoholism. A lot going on upstairs. Anyway, and that's not the last time she almost kills Peter, as she nearly killed him and his friends by locking them in the attic. When Stewie crawls into bed with Peter and Lois after a bad dream, Peter is left unable to sleep. He tries out sleeping on the kitchen table, but is woken up by Lois returning home. She suggests he go up to the attic, where there is a futon. The next morning, Lois finds Peter still up there, having brought up enough things to make his own man cave. Peter gives her a tour of the Pete Pad, a place where no girls are allowed. The guys come over to check out Peter's new digs and have a fun day that includes an insulation fight. Their antics start to do damage to the house, and Lois is tired of the attic turning into a frat house. She demands that Peter take all of his stuff down, but he refuses, having way too much fun to stop now. This makes Lois snap, and she locks them in the attic with no way out and no ventilation. The guys start to go stir crazy for being stuck in the attic all night, worrying they may die from heat stroke. With another night in the attic fast approaching, Peter has no choice but to try and reason with Lois. He calls out to her, but she seems content to let them rot away up there. Desperate, Peter decides to get drastic. He threatens to defecate on her wedding dress. Lois thinks Peter is bluffing, but he seems dead set on it, even getting the other guys to join in. Realizing they aren't messing around, Lois rips the towel hanger from the bathroom wall and crowbars the attic door open. Lois, trying not to kill them all right then and there, agrees that they all went a bit overboard and should just put it past them. Go Stewie, go. But Lois has also tried to hurt Peter through cheating, like when she tried to steal Meg's boyfriend to spite Peter. When Lois returns home, Peter greets her with a blunt reminder that she's getting older by pointing out her gray hairs. This loving conversation is broken up by Meg, who asks if she can invite her new boyfriend over for dinner. The family is skeptical but agrees to meet him. When Anthony comes over, the whole family is amazed that there doesn't appear to be anything wrong with him. Peter and Lois are very impressed with Anthony, especially when he tells Lois that she's pretty enough to be a movie star. When the parents finally go upstairs, Anthony and Meg take that time to make out on the couch, while Lois creepily watches from the top step. Lois confides in Bonnie that she's become attracted to Meg's boyfriend on account of Peter making her feel bad about her age. Bonnie thinks this is fine, even admitting to having had an affair, saying it's important for them to be explorative with their love life. Taking Bonnie's advice, Lois starts to make advances on Anthony, including giving him Peter's work schedule. Lois makes up an excuse to get Meg out of the house, offering to keep Anthony company while she's gone. She asks him if her gray hairs bother him. He says no and kisses her, but Meg walks back in and witnesses the whole thing. Lois goes to apologize to Meg, who obviously doesn't want to talk to her. She admits to feeling guilty over trying to steal Anthony, but Meg questions if she really thinks she could. Lois says if she wanted to, she could have, but Meg disagrees, telling her she's old. Lois puts the blame on Peter, saying she only cheated because of the way he's been making her feel about her appearance. Peter comes clean and says that his own insecurities made him want to point out Lois's flaws, thinking if he brought her down, she wouldn't leave him. But Lois admits she still loves him, and they reconcile. Bill and Peter's bogus journey. But this isn't the only time Lois cheated on Peter, as she also slept with former President of the United States, Bill Clinton. During a trip to the aquarium, Peter decides to mess around with an octopus by drawing on his enclosure, but he quickly finds out why aquariums have those "do not tap the glass" signs. The next day, Peter shocks Lois by saying that he's going to the gym. After his tangle with the octopus, Peter wants to be fit and ready in case he runs into another one. After one day at the gym, Peter is feeling strong and superior compared to the rest of the family. Just then, the Griffins receive a knock on the door from the Secret Service. It turns out President Clinton's motorcade blew a tire, and they need a jack. Peter, feeling strong, lifts the car for them, but he ends up with a hernia. While laid up in bed, Peter is visited by President Clinton, who tries to lift his spirits. Peter is concerned with getting older, but Bill insists that age is all in the mind. The president makes good on his promise, taking Peter out for a night of fun. The two get high and pull off to a farm where they spot a pig. Peter and Bill's partying gets to be too much for Lois, so she forbids Peter from hanging out with him again. Peter isn't looking to cut ties, so Lois decides to talk to Bill herself. Lois and Bill sleep together, and Peter catches them in bed together. Heartbroken, Peter decides to stay with Quagmire for a while. Lois manages to convince him to try and save their marriage by allowing Peter to sleep with any woman of his choice. His answer is not what she expected: Babs. When Peter approaches her mother with the offer, she's surprisingly receptive. Peter can't bring himself to do it and forgives Lois, admitting he only wants to be with her. Peter then goes to break things off with Bill. A house full of Peters. But what we can blame her for is perhaps the weirdest instance of cheating yet. The time she cheated on Peter with his donor-conceived son who looks a lot like him. During a girls' night with Lois, Bonnie, and Donna, the gals decide to prank call their husbands. Lois decides to pretend to be Peter's long-lost daughter, but his reaction leaves her a bit surprised. When she returns home, Lois tries to sneakily squeeze more info out of Peter, but he doesn't admit to any illegitimate kids. Still suspecting something is up, Lois trails Peter to a certain type of bank. Peter admits that right before they got married, he donated his population paste for some extra money. He had forgotten about it, but the call last night started to worry him. Lois admits to making the call and insists that if there's a kid who's out there, they should be allowed to meet him. Not long after, a girl claiming to be Peter's daughter comes to their home. Katie explains that all of his children are excited to meet him. While cleaning up the mess Peter's offspring made, Lois accidentally bumps into one of his sons named Larry, who looks a lot like how Peter did when Lois first met him. His offer to help clean surprises her and causes her to feel other emotions. Lois agrees to go to lunch with Larry, followed by a trip to the park. When Lois makes a bit of a mess, Larry offers to help clean it off. Before Lois can react, Larry starts to passionately kiss her. When Peter comes looking for Larry, Lois nervously dodges the question, though she confides in Brian about how she let him kiss her. Despite Larry's boundary pushing, Lois says she's still willing to see him. This comes to a head when Larry starts to give Lois a back massage. One thing leads to another, and Larry tries to take off Lois's bra with his teeth. With the truth out in the open, Larry admits his love for Lois, which prompts the two lookalikes to fight. The younger Larry is too youthful for Peter to handle, but Lois knocks him out with a potted plant. Lois admits to her wrongdoing, wishing that Peter would treat her like he did when they were younger. He agrees to do just that.